أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So we're going to start, inshallah, a new hadith today, hadith number 20 from Nawawi's collection of 40 hadith. And as we normally do, I'm just going to read the hadith out in Arabic and then the meaning in English, and then we'll start talking about some of the contents of the hadith. عن أبي مسعود عقبة بن عمرو الأنصاري رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن مما أدرك الناس من كلام النبوة الأولى إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. رواه البخاري. On the authority of Abu Mas'ud, Uqba ibn Amir al-Ansari, Uqba ibn Amr al-Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find are, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. Recorded by Bukhari. So as you can see, this is a very brief hadith, and there is it seems like there's one main message in it, but I will mention two main messages that this hadith conveys to us. I was also going to add that, those of you who are able to or who would like to, at least the short hadith which are have a few words, or even the longer ones which are easy enough for you to read and understand, it would be an idea if you start memorizing some of them, so that'll just be another feather in your cap, and inshallah something beneficial for you to memorize, and encourage your children to memorize it as well. Sometimes we it takes us almost 3 or 4 sessions to complete a hadith, and we keep reading it over and over again. So it might be an idea to, for example, print it out and put it up on your wall, and then read it every time you pass by, and gradually you'll start memorizing it. So so much benefit in memorizing the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so as we normally do, we're going to start by talking about the narrator, because this is somebody that we have not heard about before, and this is a new name, I think, for most of us. So the kunya is not new, right? Abu Mas'ud, this is shared by more than one person, but so if we go back to the hadith, I'm just going to say his name again. On the authority of Abu Mas'ud, Uqba ibn Amir al-Ansari. So just by hearing his name, what information are you able to get? So you can either unmute and answer, or just answer in the chat box, please. So I'll read his name again while you guys are still listening. Abu Mas'ud Uqba ibn Amr al-Ansari. So what do you gather from his name? So there's one thing that's very obvious that I'm expecting for you to pick up. Very good. Yes.
Ansari.
Yes, very good. So somebody's just answered in the chat box. So Al-Ansari is giving you the indication that he belongs to Medina, right? He was a well-known companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he was from the tribe of Khazraj in Medina. And he has a nickname which is Al-Badri. What do you think that indicates?
Battle of Badr, just a guess.
Yeah. So, normally people would, yes, excellent. So somebody's answered again in the chat box as well. So normally people would attribute a laqab like that would be given to someone who participated in a certain battle. However, there is some difference of opinion and differences amongst the scholars about whether he attended Badr or not. So it seems predominantly that he did not actually attend the Battle of Badr, but it seems like he stayed in the area of Badr for a while. So as you know, people get the name of the area that they belong to. Like you'll hear people calling themselves Abu Umar al-Britani. So what does that mean? That means that he comes from the region of Britain, right? Or you'll see let's say Abu Anas al-Libbi. So that means he's from the region of Libya, and he's got his kunya along with the place that he belongs to. When he's called al-Badri, or his nickname is Badri, it's most likely because he stayed in the area of Badr for a little while, and not because he fought in Badr. And the reason it seems like he was not able to fight during the Battle of Badr, or in the Battle of Badr, is because what we know about him is that he was a very young companion, and one of the things that he is known for, there are 2 or 3 main things that I would like you to remember about him. So one of them is that he was one of the people who took the Bay'ah of Al-Aqaba, and from my Sirah students, I would expect them to know that how many pledges of Aqaba were there?
2.
Yes, very good. There were 2 pledges of Aqaba. How many people were there in the first one, and how many in the second one?
First one 12, second one 72.
Yes, very good. So he was present in both of those bay'ahs, and it is said that he says himself that he was the youngest companion from the 70 who gave the bay'ah of Aqaba. So and as you know, when we were discussing Battle of Badr in Sirah, the Prophet ﷺ, he was very particular about the age of the participants in any battle. So he wouldn't allow children who were too young to participate in a battle. And some of the Sahaba even say that when we would go to enroll in a battle, we would stand on our tippy toes just to look, bigger, so that the Prophet ﷺ would select us, because the Prophet ﷺ was very, selective about age, and he was not, he was reluctant to allow younger companions to participate in the battle. And so it seems that he was very young, and he did not participate in the battle, perhaps due to his age. Now, so his nickname is Abu Musa al-Badri, okay, and his full name is Uqba bin Amr bin Tha'laba bin Usayra al-Ansari. Okay, I'll just say that again. Uqba. So his actual name is Uqba, but his kunya is Abu Musa, right? That's another thing I would expect you to pick up from his name. So his name is Uqba bin Amr bin Tha'laba bin Usayra al-Ansari. And as I've already told you, he's one of the companions who took the bay'ah of Aqaba, and he was the youngest amongst them. And he is known to have narrated about 100 hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, which are recorded. Some of them are recorded by Imam Muslim, some by Imam Bukhari, and some by both. Okay, some of the hadith that he has recorded and mentioned from the Prophet ﷺ, I'm going to read some of them out to you. So one of them is, let the rich man spend according to his means, and the man whose resources are restricted, let him spend according to what Allah has given him. In fact, what I will do is I will try and post some of these hadith on the group, inshallah, so you can just read some of the narrations, some of the very famous narrations by him. but right now I'll just paraphrase some of them. So one of the hadith that he narrated is the one that he talks about a man spending his wealth on his family, and if he hopes to have a reward from Allah, then he will be rewarded for his spending. Another hadith that he narrated is about the last two verses of Baqarah, where he said that anyone who recites the last two verses of Baqarah, they will suffice him. Then there is the hadith where he talks about reciting a tenth of the Quran every night. And the Sahaba were, they were very concerned, and they became worried when they heard this. And then the Prophet ﷺ clarified this for them, and he said to them that reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas is considered reciting Surah Al-Ikhlas 3 times would be considered reciting the Quran, a tenth of the Quran every day. And also there is a hadith about staying with the jama'ah, and that the majority of righteous people will not be misguided. So I will just post the exact hadith, inshallah, on the group if I can find them. In terms of his political stances, he stood by Ali radiallahu anhu during the fitna, and he was very close to Ali radiallahu anhu, and he lived in Kufa for a while. And when Ali radiallahu anhu participated in the Battle of Siffin, and so he obviously marched out of Kufa for the battle, he left Uqba as governor of Kufa in his absence. So Uqba was meant to manage the affairs of the people of Kufa in the absence of Ali radiallahu anhu. This is again something major that like an important you could say hallmark about this companion, about Uqba radiallahu anhu, that he was made the governor of Kufa in the absence of Ali radiallahu anhu. He passed away soon after the incident of Siffin, and there are some differences again about when he passed away. So some people, it's most likely that he passed away about 40 years after Hijrah, and it seems most likely that he passed away during the Khilafah of Hassan radiallahu anhu, because this is after the death of Ali radiallahu anhu that he passes away. And so he passes away most likely during the Khilafah of Hassan radiallahu anhu. Some historians say that he passed away in Medina during the Khilafah of Muawiyah, and some of them say that he passed away in Kufa. So there is some, ikhtilaf on that as well. So, so the few things that I would like you to, remember about him. So his name is Uqba bin Amr al-Ansari, if you can't remember his entire name. His nickname is Abu Musa al-Badri. He was from the tribe of Khazraj in Medina. He was the youngest companion to take the pledge of Aqaba. And this is like before Hijrah, right? Before the Prophet ﷺ migrates, he takes these 2 bay'ahs, right? So he is amongst those earliest companions who takes the pledge before the Prophet ﷺ moves to Medina. And I would also like you to remember that that he was assigned the place of being a governor of Kufa in the absence of Ali radiallahu anhu. So these are some key points about him that I would like you to remember, inshallah. And I will try and quiz you next time, inshallah. So right now we'll just get into the hadith, inshallah. So this is a very important and a very beneficial and interesting hadith, even though like I said, it's brief, but it's filled with a lot of important messages. As you can see in the words of the hadith, as he narrates them, he says, from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find. So from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find, are, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. So just this phrase, from the words of the earlier prophets that the people still find. What do you understand from that? Again, you can either unmute yourselves or you can just write in the chat box. The thing is that if I just keep talking, then you'll remember some of the things that I've said and you'll forget some of the things I've said. So I would like you to interact and give me what your understanding is. Okay, so I'm just asking about this statement, from the words of the earlier prophets that the people still find. What do you think that is indicating towards? What do you think that is telling us?
It's a repetition. The hadith is being repeated.
Okay, so it's repeating what?
Goodness or
Ihsan. One ihsan.
or modesty.
Yeah, it is talking about modesty, but what I mean is that who else has been preaching modesty?
The previous prophets.
Excellent. Yes, that's the message. So these are the two key points that this hadith is delivering. One is that that this is a common theme that all the Anbiya have been preaching since the Anbiya have been preaching. So basically this is such an important and core theme that this has been preached from the beginning until now. So from the beginning of prophethood until the end of prophethood, this has been a common recurring theme. Okay, so that's what it means when it says that from the words of the previous prophets that the people still find. So this is a theme or a concept that has been preached and passed down from prophet to prophet to prophet, and it has carried on for such a long time. So that's the first important message in this hadith, that this is a common theme and it's not something new, and it's something that has been stressed on and that has been preached from, for a very long time. And the second the second concept that this hadith is telling us is the concept of modesty or shyness. Okay, so these two things is that there is a legacy of the prophets in terms of similarity of what they preached and they taught, and that legacy has continued, and this is one of the themes that is common. If you think about the verses in the Quran, you find a similar trend or similar speech of prophets in the Quran. Can anybody tell me what it is? So when you're reading the Quran, you keep reading that this prophet said this, then another prophet said the same thing, then a third prophet said the same thing. Can you think of what that is?
It's in Surah Ash-Shu'ara.
Yes, excellent. That's what I was looking for. So this phrase, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا. So taqwa, that have taqwa of Allah and obedience, right? And obedience to Allah and obedience to the Messenger. So the Prophet ﷺ now in this hadith is almost telling us that there is a third theme which is very common and recurrent, and it comes down from the previous prophets all the way down to our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is the concept or the theme of shyness and modesty. So can you imagine that this is so close in category with taqwa, and obedience is shyness. And Nawawi states that all of Islam revolves around this statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can you explain that? How can you explain that all of Islam revolves around this statement? That if you have no shame or shyness, then do as you wish. How do you explain that, or what do you understand from that? I mean, it's a very strong thing to say, right? That all of Islam revolves around this statement.
Like if we wish to do anything, it may be bad,
Mhm.
So Allah will punish us from what we are doing if we have no modesty.
Whether you have modesty or you don't have modesty, if you commit a sin, it's punishable. Okay, so somebody has said in the chat box, being conscientious is the main part. So how do you tie in shyness with conscientiousness? Okay, so somebody has just answered, I'll accept that. That, I mean, they said Tawheed keeps us away from sins, but I'll change that a little bit to shyness. So what is the result of shyness? What happens when you are shy? What is a byproduct of shyness?
Haya is part of Iman and Taqwa.
Very good. Yes, Haya is an important, integral part of Iman. How can you tie that in? So what does this shyness do for our Iman, or how does it affect our behavior? Yes, okay. So some people have answered that exactly. It stops you from doing certain things, right? Haya, it prevents you from sinning, right? When I'm saying haya or shyness, for example, let's say, give me the example of any sin that you can think of.
Backbiting.
Okay, for example, backbiting, right? So as you're about to start backbiting someone, what is, I mean, other than taqwa, what is one of the main things that will stop you? It is just,
Everything is being documented and written, and will be accounted for later.
yes, I mean, basically, if you are conscientious, right, that Allah is watching you, Allah is listening to you, Allah is aware of all your actions, you'll be ashamed in front of Allah to do the action that Allah says is like eating the flesh of your brother. So that's going to stop you, it's going to make you think, and it's going to prevent you from doing something that Allah does not like. So I think in terms of sinning, the connection between shyness and sinning is quite clear, right? So, let's say when you're about to watch something which is filthy, okay, you're about to watch something which is filthy. Just as you're about to watch it, the thing that might stop you from watching that is you might feel ashamed in front of Allah, right? You might think that, Allah can see what I'm doing, so this might stop you from doing that action. So I think the connection between sinning and shyness is quite clear. That's half of your Iman. What's the other half?
I remember reading cleanliness also.
Yes, that's right. But in terms of, we're still on the subject of shyness. Because remember, I'm saying that Nawawi is saying that all of Islam revolves around these words of the Prophet ﷺ. So we're saying basically that all of Islam revolves around shyness. So shyness, half the thing that shyness does is it prevents you from sinning. It makes you feel ashamed, right? So you stop yourself from doing something bad or something sinful or something that is shameful. What's the other half? How does shyness tie in with the other half of Iman? What is the other half of Iman? So half of Iman is keeping away from sins. What is the other half?
Shame? It's a guess.
Sorry, what did you say?
Shame. I said shame.
No. I'm going to try and tie in shame with the entire concept of Iman. So I'm saying that half of Iman is keeping away from sins. What's the other half?
Doing good.
Excellent, yes. The other half is doing good actions. Okay, so half of Iman is avoiding what is prohibited or avoiding sins, and the other half is doing good actions. So we understand how shyness ties in with sinning. So when you sin, shyness prevents you from sinning. How does shyness tie in with doing good actions? Just trying to look at your answers in the chat box. Okay, so how does shyness tie in with pleasing Allah or doing what Allah likes? I'm just taking some answers from the chat box now. How does shyness tie in with this concept? So when you're about to do a good action, yes, but I want you to connect shyness with good actions. So for example, let's say you want to give sadaqah, okay? So before you give sadaqah, how will your shyness contribute to this action of giving sadaqah? Or let's say you're about to pray Salatul Duha, okay? No. It's not that you will think that you don't have enough good deeds. It actually it might be, but I'm just looking for something more specific. Yes, you won't show off, and yes, secrecy with Allah. But okay, imagine you're about to pray duha in the morning. How will shyness contribute to your salatul duha, for example? Yes, keeping it secret, but there's something else.
Knowledge? I do not guess.
So no, basically, your shyness towards Allah will help you to do more. Because, for example, if I'm about to get up and pray 2 rakahs, right? I've prayed 2 rakahs and I feel shy in front of Allah that I'm only going to do 2 rakahs. You know, I'm doing something for Allah. I have to do more. It will encourage you to do more. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to say, 2 is embarrassing. I'm going to do 4 rakahs. Imagine, that a guest comes to your house. What will your shyness cause you to do? It will cause you to serve him better, to look nice, to clean your house, to prepare lots of dishes, right? You wouldn't just say, the guest is coming, so I'm just going to make a sandwich for him and I'm not going to, clean my kitchen today. I'll do it tomorrow, right? Your shyness will encourage you to beautify your action, right? Because you feel ashamed to, to welcome this person into your house with very little or with lack of cleanliness or something like that, right? So for example, when you give sadaqah, let's say you want to give sadaqah, when you're putting a few coins or pennies in, or you're giving it to a poor person, right, you feel shy in front of Allah, that because you're not actually giving to that person, you're actually giving in the path of Allah. Right? It's all, Allah is free of all needs. Allah does not need anything, but we are giving to Allah, right? So when you're giving to Allah or you're doing an action for Allah, you feel shy to do scraps, right? You feel ashamed that how can I just put a few coins, let me at least give 5 or 10 or 20 or 50, I guess, the more you pay attention to what I'm saying or focus on what you're doing, the more embarrassed you will be to do very little, right? Or like you wake up for tahajjud and you look at the time, and you feel embarrassed, that I just woke up like 5 minutes before Fajr or 10 minutes before Fajr. At least I should wake up 20 minutes or half an hour before Fajr. This is what shyness will do. It will help you to do more and to do better and to polish up your good actions. Okay? Is that concept clear? Do you understand how shyness is connected with good actions? So shyness connected to bad actions or sins is clear, right? You're ashamed to sin and to disobey Allah, so that protects you from sinning. How is shyness connected to good actions? Is that it encourages you to do more because you feel shy in front of Allah to do, just very little bit or to just do scraps. So you want to do more, you want to please Allah more, right? Yes, so when we talk about shyness, we are talking about being ashamed or embarrassed, yes. And yes, exactly, somebody has said a very, very important point, that if you feel shy, if you have, shyness or shame, you feel ashamed or embarrassed that you have not done something. Like, for example, let's say there's a day when you wake up and you keep thinking, I will pray duha, I'll pray in a little while, and it becomes dhuhr time. It just like hits you inside. It's almost like you feel embarrassed in front of Allah, that I didn't do duha today. Or, today I made wudu and I didn't use the siwak to clean my teeth. Or today I prayed dhuhr and I left out all my sunnahs, right? So that shyness, it should nab at you inside, and it should like make you feel ashamed that I should have done more, I could have done this, I should have done that, or I could have done this better. Or like sometimes, when you finish your salah, you come out of salah and you think, that was a really poor salah, I could have done it better, I could have done a better job at that salah, I could have focused more. So these thoughts are coming to you. Yes, they're coming from taqwa, but they're also coming from a place of shyness. I mean, nobody knows how you did your salah, right? Nobody saw you, nobody heard you, nobody has any idea what you recited in that salah, but and you feel ashamed in front of Allah because that you rushed through the salah, that you were just rattling off something without even remembering or realizing what you're saying in the salah, right? So that shyness or that sense of shame inside you, it's helping you to improve this action and to do it better. That's why shyness is a pillar of Iman, and it's so closely connected to taqwa, and you can see how it helps you to polish up and improve your good actions. So is that clear? You understand that? Do you grasp the concept of why Imam Nawawi is saying that all of Islam revolves around this statement? Because it's this statement that is helping you to stop doing, things which are displeasing to Allah. So it is, helping you, saving you from the hellfire, and it's encouraging you to improve the good actions and to do more good actions. So it's helping you to go towards Jannah. So can you see that how, beautifully shyness and shame is tied up with your iman and your taqwa and your your ability to do good actions and to keep away from bad actions, right? So it's really amazing. I mean, we don't even think about shyness like that. I don't think a lot of us would associate shyness with doing good actions, but it's such an integral part of good actions. It's such an integral part of hasanat. For example, when you recite Quran, or any action that you do, especially the actions that you do privately, which nobody else is seeing, but you have this thing inside where you want to beautify it, you want to perfect it, and a part of that is from this place of shame inside you, that you don't want to be ashamed in front of Allah. You want to do more, you want to do better. Okay. So all right. So we talked about why Imam Nawawi, he states this statement that it is that all of Islam revolves around this statement. And when we talk about what we started talking about, which is from the words of the earlier prophets that the people still find, I think I did explain that to you, but I just want to touch on it again. So all the prophets were sent by Allah. All of them preach the same message. Like we said, in so many places in the Quran, you see, right? وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا. A lot, even in terms of preaching, even in terms of the language that they use in preaching, it's so similar because they're bringing the same message, right? They have been sent by the same creator. They have been sent with the same message. So obviously, even the language and the way that they deliver this message is so similar and tied in together with each other. And all of them are promoting the same theme, right? So like we said, taqwa and obedience, and then there is iman. The Prophet ﷺ is teaching us a third theme, which is coming down all the way from the line of prophets. It's coming down is this theme of shyness and shame. And you can see why this is such an important theme and why it's coming down all the way from there, because this is such an important component of a person's character, or of a person's integrity, to have a sense of shame and shyness, because that is what is going to help you and push you in the right direction. Now, shyness is not only shyness from Allah, because a lot of the times we do tend to think that shyness is, feeling shy from Allah, but it's not just feeling shyness from Allah. Who else can you feel shy from? Can somebody say that again? Okay, so somebody's answered here. Yes, you can feel shy from other people. Who else can you feel shy from? There is a Sahabi. He is known to have felt shy from someone. Very good. You can feel shy from parents, from elders, from seniors, peers. Excellent.
Excellent.
So, teachers, yes, very good. You can feel shy from teachers, and I can see some of you are very shy to speak in front of me. Yes, very good. Uthman radiallahu anhu, very good, was very shy, and he was shy from the angels. Excellent, yes. So that's what I was also looking for. So you can even feel shy in front of angels, right? When you are doing good actions, and when there is good. Sorry.
That's why you make the dua for the last. You feel safe.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that, you have shyness in front of Allah, but you can also be shy from a whole list of other, people or things. So you can be shy of angels, of elders, parents, teachers, peers, etc. And this is important, to have this sense of shame or shyness, because when you don't have it, it can have some very bad repercussions, and we will talk about that as we go along. So the concept of shyness, it does two important things. It makes you shy of sinning, so it protects you from sinning. And the other thing it does, it instills good manners and morals in ourselves. So for example, if we take the example of Uthman radiallahu anhu, what is he, when he was shy of angels, what kind of things did that cause him to do? How did that affect his behavior?
Everybody who said needs to buy the same.
Anyone know? There was an incident that happened, and they said that.
Changing clothes or something?
Yeah, very good. Yes. So once the Prophet ﷺ, I think his thigh became slightly uncovered, and when Uthman radiallahu anhu came in, he covered it, because he said that he had a very high level of shyness. And so shyness is actually it's a virtue, whereas, as you know, today the society, it pushes you towards the opposite of shyness. So confidence and shyness are separate things. So I'm not saying that a lot of people mix this up, and they say that, she's too shy, she has no confidence. So shyness and confidence are separate things. Don't ever mix them up. So yes, it's good to have confidence, but you can have shyness at the same time, side by side with having confidence. Okay. So for example, for me to deliver this dars, I need a certain level of confidence, right? I can't sit and speak to all of you if I am really anxious, or I'm scared, or I'm intimidated in any way. But when I'm sitting and delivering this dars, does that indicate to you that I'm not shy? Do you see what I'm trying to say? There's confidence and then there's shyness. So I guess, I'm just using this as an example because it's easier to see. So for example, what indicates to you that I have some level of shyness?
Your clothing.
Yes, very good. So when I sit down to do the dars, I cover myself as much as I think, is reasonable. So that indicates that, okay, I have confidence, but I also have shyness, right? So shyness and confidence are not if you are confident, that doesn't mean that you don't have shyness. And shyness is a virtue, which is something that, the society today is trying to dismantle one by one, piece by piece. And, for example...
Confidence and shyness don't go together.
Yeah, and for example, society today encourages nakedness, right? Take everything off. Make your dress shorter, make your, open up more from here and open up more from there. And, this is what is getting rid of shyness. This is not confidence, The more naked you are does not indicate that that's how confident you are. An indication of confidence is not equal to nakedness or, acting, disrespectful or dishonorable is not the same as confidence. That is just literally just, for example, when people, and especially in the West, when people drink, why do you think they drink? One of the reasons, why do you think they drink? Anyone know why they drink?
Culture.
Yeah, culture, yes. But what is one of the main things that motivates them or pushes them to drink? Even like young students, they get drunk. Why are they getting drunk? Because they get really sick afterwards. So it's not nice. And
enjoy.
The feeling of loneliness.
yes, very good. Somebody just said the thing that is the main answer, to release their inhibitions. Because when you're drunk, you're not really focusing on, what's happening around you, whether you're wearing clothes, whether you're not wearing your clothes, what you're saying. There might be things that you're shy to admit or talk about. But when you're drunk, you'll talk about everything and anything, and you'll stand in the roadside and you'll wet yourself, and you have no inhibitions, you have no shame, no shyness. So it helps them they think that it helps them to socialize and to break the ice and to, and to get really friendly and talkative. So that's why they drink, because if they don't drink, then they have a lot of reservations and anxiety and things like that. So this is absolute, foolishness. And this is where they are trying to dismantle shyness, whereas shyness is there for a reason. You have inhibitions and reservations for a reason. And obviously, that shyness has a moral place. It's part of your moral compass, and it has a function. It's Allah has not given us shyness just like that. But that shyness, it plays a very important role in our interaction with people and in our life. So yes, so a lot of people have answered yes, that's right. People drink to fit in, and part of that fitting in is letting go of your shyness, unfortunately. And okay, so so there are two main things that shyness does. One is it stops you from sinning, and the second thing is it instills good morals and manners. So when I say good morals and manners, this is what I'm talking about, that when you are shy, you try to think about, how you speak. It makes you ashamed to, for example, start screaming out in the street, or to, to bring a lot of attention to yourself. Or, for example, to dress in very tight clothing, and, have people, staring at you. Or to, for example, any action that you would do that is going to cause you shame or embarrassment, you will keep away from that. And most of those actions are are, they're not categorized as good actions. So shyness is not preventing you from doing good actions. It's preventing you from doing bad actions. And that's why shyness instills good manners and good habits and good morals into you. So we will discuss shyness in some more detail later on. But today I want to leave you with 3 interpretations of the words in the Hadith, and I will try and explain them briefly. Inshallah, next time we'll talk a little bit more in detail of the concept of haya and having haya towards Allah, and also we will talk about the manifestations of haya, inshallah, but we will talk about that later. Okay, so the scholars interpreted this statement in 3 ways. So the words of the Hadith: if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. Okay, so before I start explaining it, what do you understand from that? If you feel no shame, then do as you wish.
There's certain rules and regulations that we need to abide.
Okay, so you're saying that this statement, that if you feel no shame, then do as you wish, is you feel it's an instruction? Is that why you're saying that there are certain rules we need to abide?
Yes.
Okay, so Rabina is saying that this is like a command or an order or an instruction, that if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. Anybody else? Any other meanings that you can derive from the statement? If you feel no shame, then do as you wish.
If you don't have haya, there's no taqwa, Riman.
Okay.
You are free to do anything.
Okay, that is I'll take that as one interpretation, that you're free to do anything. Okay, so some people have answered some very good answers here in the chat box. Very good, yes. So somebody said that without shame you won't hold back. So basically, if you don't have shame, there's no restrictions to what you will do. Like a reprimand, very good, yes. Yes, excellent. So it's almost like a rhetorical statement that you basically, like, you've been left that, do whatever you want. Okay, as parents, do you ever find yourself speaking in this manner to your children? Have you ever said a statement like that to your children as a parent?
Yes.
Yes. I think that rings lots of bells for us, right? When we say to our, when your child comes to you and says, please, can I do this? And you say, no, you can't do it. And then finally you say, go and do whatever you want. What do you mean when you say that?
You are angry.
Yeah, you're angry.
You are at the extreme of angry.
You are angry, but what are you trying to say? When you say to your child, do whatever you want, are you trying to say to him that literally go and do whatever you want and you have my blessings? What exactly are you trying to say?
You want to get rid of them.
That's a very good answer. Yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so, somebody said a very interesting thing, that you feel confident that if your upbringing is good, then they will not do that action. So can you tell me now, what is your intention when you're saying that? That you want them to do that, or you don't want them to do that? And that's why you've said to them, go and do whatever you want. That's right. So somebody said it's the opposite, that they don't have our blessings, right? So basically what you're saying, when you say to your child, eventually, go and do whatever you want to do, you're basically saying that you do that thing and you face the consequences. That's almost basically what you're saying, right? It's almost like a threat, right? When you say that, yeah, exactly, you're saying that you should know better, right? So when you make a bombastic statement like, okay, go and do whatever you want, you don't mean literally go. You're trying to say that you do that action and you're going to have to face me after that, right? That in between the lines, that's what you're saying. Okay, so one of the interpretations of the statement that if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. It's like, for example, a parent would say to a child, that let's say the child said, can I drive your car? And you said, no, you can't drive my car. They said, no, can I please drive your car? Can I? And then you finally say, if you don't want to listen to me, do whatever you want, right? So this is almost like a threat. So when the Prophet ﷺ is saying, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish, one of the interpretations is that this is a threat. And this is almost like saying that if you have no shame and no modesty, and you will do whatever you wish. So there are no limits or boundaries now, and you are just going to get up and do whatever you feel like doing, regardless of whether it's pleasing to Allah or not, whether it's obedience or disobedience. You have no regard for what is around that action, and you're just going to get up and do it. Then be prepared to face the consequences, that Allah will recompense you, that Allah can punish you for whatever you do, which is outside the boundaries of what is permissible and pleasing to Allah. So that is basically the first interpretation, that it's almost like a threat, that if you are going to do anything you want and you're not going to think about whether this is pleasing to Allah or not, then, and you're not thinking about any consequences, then you should be prepared to face punishment from Allah if this is something that is going to make Allah angry. And like when Allah says in the Quran, اعملوا ما شئتم إنه بما تعملون بصير. So Allah says in Fussilat, do what you will, verily He is all seer of what you do. So when Allah says do as you will, and Allah is watching you, do you think that Allah is saying here that just you have full reign to do whatever you want? No, this is a threat, right? This is something to deter us. This is a statement which is meant to deter us from doing whatever we like. This is it's intended to have the opposite message, right? It's basically saying to us that be careful of what you do. Make sure that what you do is within the circle of permissibility, right? Don't step out of this. Don't come near the hima of Allah. And this is something we studied some time ago, and of course, I think a lot of the students who are with me now were not there at that time, but we talked about the hima of Allah, which is you could say the boundaries set by Allah, and you should not go near those boundaries. The more you stay in the center, the less likely you are to fall over this boundary, right? And the more you stretch it and you start hovering around the edges, the more likely you are. It would just take a moment for you to go from halal into something which is displeasing to Allah, because you are walking on very dangerous ground when you're very, very close to the boundary. So stay inside as much as possible, right? That's the safest place. So that's why it's good to stay away from doubtful matters. Stay within the matters which are clear, which are clearly permissible, good, healthy, wholesome. Don't go towards things where now there are a few question marks. Is this allowed? Is it not? Is it questionable? So the more you start going towards those, that overlap area where it's not clear, is this okay or not, the more likely you are to come out of that area into something bad. And the more you stay within what is clearly, permissible, good, wholesome, then the less likely you are to come out of that. So that's the first interpretation. Okay. And some of the scholars, they conclude that this is the strongest interpretation, that it's almost like a threat. that, you know, don't, basically saying that if you are going to, you know, not, if you're going to disregard the boundaries set by Allah, then be prepared for consequences and punishment from Allah. The second interpretation is that some of the scholars said that this is a statement. This is a factual statement. It's not a command. It's a factual statement. When I say it's a factual statement, it just means that it is saying that if a person is not shy, if a person lacks shame, then he will do whatever he wants. Just like, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm on the streets and I see people doing the strangest things. Or you hear sometimes, or you read in the news, right? You read of something, you know, something that really shocks you, right? Like for example, you know, you hear of this man, for example, you know, he you know, he imprisoned his daughter, for example, and he raped her repeatedly, and then he had children with her. Or, you know, you hear some really, really strange things, you know, and you just, it really puzzles you, you know, and you think that how could he do that? You know, there are so many things that we read, you know, and it just confuses you that how could somebody do that? So this is the thing, that when people don't have any shame, when they don't have any embarrassment towards anything or anyone, then they will do whatever they want to do. So it's a factual statement. Some people said that this is a factual statement, that if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. So it's just stating that people who don't have shame, they just do whatever they want to do. They have no, you know, they have no reservations or inhibitions, right? And this is what you see, for example, in Western society. You see them doing some very, very strange things. And the only thing you can chalk that to is that, you know, they don't have any haya, they don't have any shame. So, you know, they will take their clothes off when they feel like it. They will wear whatever they want. They will do whatever they want to their hair. And their relationships are all, you know, all over the place, you know. And this is all just from, you know, having no shame and no guidance, no guidelines. Okay. You know, similarly with what things that people watch, and you know, this is again all, you know, going back to your sense of shame. Now Ibn al-Qayyim, he talks extensively around this particular point, and yes, very good. So somebody just mentioned, you know, that this whole LGBT movement that's going on, you know, this is a complete dismantling of any shreds of shame that were left in society. Honestly, it's really just taken everything down. I mean, how can you even speak to a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old about things like this, you know, and the kind of children's books they've made? It really shows you that there is, you know, they are trying their best to remove shame from society as much as possible. You know, I remember when I was doing a rotation, one of my hospital rotations when I was studying medicine, I was connected with this ophthalmologist. I had to, like, you know, sit with her in her clinic. And so, you know, in between patients, she would talk to me, and she was, I guess, according to her passport, she was a Muslim, but I didn't really see any signs of that otherwise. But she was telling me, you know, how she was really shy to wear short dresses. And she said that her husband was Arab Muslim. And she said that, you know, my husband gets really upset with me because I feel really awkward to wear short dresses, and you know, I'm not used to it. And she said that, you know, he keeps telling me to, you know, lift my dress and to, you know, expose more of my legs. And she said, I just, you know, I have these inhibitions because I haven't done it, you know, from a young age. And so she said that now with our daughter, we're starting her off young, you know, so we make her wear clothes which are as open and expose as much of her body as possible, so that when she grows up, she doesn't have any inhibitions, and, you know, she feels comfortable to expose herself and to expose her legs and her arms and the rest of her body. And, you know, this is what what happens when shame is eroded. And so Ibn al-Qayyim, he talks about this extensively when he talks about the heart, and he says that the word haya is also there's a similar word for water called haya, and that also means water. And as you know, water is considered to be life, or it gives life. And so just like water causes things to grow and life to grow on land, he makes an analogy between haya and being the life of the heart. Okay, so just like water gives life to earth, shyness gives life to your heart. And this is a very, very important concept, because like I said, there is a reason why, there are two main things that I see here, that this is a concept that is coming down from all the prophets. So you can imagine this is a very, very important core concept. And secondly, that, like Imam Nawawi is saying, that this is the entire deen, revolves around the statement. So you can imagine that this is a very, very important thing. And if this is the thing that is giving life to your heart, you can imagine what happens when it's not there, right? What is it going to do to your heart? If haya is giving life to your heart, and if you remove it, what is it going to do to your heart?
Seal the heart.
Yeah, well, yes, but the word I'm looking for, yes, exactly, kill it. You're going to end up with a dead heart, right? If there is no haya in it. So this is such an important concept. And so basically what he said is that when a person commits a sin, as we've all probably, experienced this. So the first time to commit a sin is very, very heavy on your heart. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of back and forth, right? You think a lot about it, shall I do this, shall I not, shall I? So once you do it, what happens? It's almost like, something goes down a little bit when you commit that sin. So to do that sin a second time and a third time and a fourth time, it becomes easier, exactly like somebody said in the chat box. It gets easier and easier and easier until you are sinning in broad daylight and not even thinking about it, because that haya is completely being eroded. So it's that that shamefulness, it prevents you in the beginning, and then gradually that shamefulness, it just goes down to a point where now you are doing things which 10 months ago you would have thought, I would have never done that, and now you're comfortably doing that thing. So you see, this is something that is it's connected to your heart, and the heart is connected to shyness. So Ibn al-Qayyim is saying that as he commits more and more sins, his haya is weakened to the point that it may not exist at all. And so now you don't only do the sin, but you get to a point where you don't really even care what people think. And you announce it and proclaim it and advertise it and talk about it. Like, for example, let's say you're watching something inappropriate, okay, on the screen. And the first time you feel really bad and you watch it and you think, oh my God, this is really bad. I shouldn't be watching this. Then you do it a second time. Then you do it a third time, fourth time, fifth time, until now you're calling your friends and saying, hey, you know what? I was watching Game of Thrones last night. I mean, this is something that you should be ashamed of, And if Allah put a curtain on that for you, that you did something and nobody even knew that you watched this trash, and now you're like trying to announce to everyone that I'm doing this. This means that your haya has come to a level where it doesn't really even bother you what, that you're proclaiming things which are, almost, I would say, dishonorable. Yes, and you become desensitized. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ talked about. This is a person who will not be forgiven. And that's why it is so important to not allow your haya to be eroded. So the istighfar or the repentance for this person will be blocked. And this is something very serious, because as we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very forgiving. He is Ghafoor, He is Ar-Rahim. But what did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said, كل أمتي معافا إلا المجاهرين وإن من المجاهرة أن يعمل الرجل بالليل عملا ثم يصبح وقد ستره الله عليه فيقول يا فلان عملت البارحة كذا وكذا وقد بات يستره ربه ويصبح يكشف ستر الله عنه. So the Prophet ﷺ said, all of my nation are apt to be forgiven except for the mujahirun, except for those who commit sins openly. Included among those who commit sins openly is where a person performs a deed during the night, and although Allah has concealed that sin, in the morning he says, oh so and so, last night I did such and such. He spent the night being concealed by Allah, and in the morning he uncovered Allah's concealment from himself. This is recorded by Bukhari. And so this is what lack of shame does, where now you have lost that conscientiousness or consciousness where you don't even distinguish, that this is an embarrassment, this is shameful. You don't even see it as something shameful. Now you're telling people about it. And why do you think it is discouraged to this level to propagate your sin? That, I mean, obviously when you're being told that if you propagate your sin, you are not going to be forgiven, it's almost like a warning and again like a threat. So why do you think you're being discouraged to this extent from propagating your sins? Yes, excellent, exactly. Because by talking about what you're doing, you're going to encourage other people to do it. Because people will think, oh, she's doing it, he's doing it, maybe I should try it out as well, right? You're putting ideas into someone's head. So that's why this is such a serious thing to do, that where you do something wrong and then you go and talk about it and tell people about it. So this is the second interpretation, that it is just a factual statement that when you don't have shame, you will do whatever you want. And what is the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that you will eventually become desensitized to that bad action, where you will not feel, even if there is a reason for you to feel shame, you won't feel that shame, right? You're just going to be just doing this, in broad daylight. And the last interpretation with which we will end Dars, inshallah, the third interpretation is that it indicates a form of permissibility. What do you think I mean by permissibility? That this statement is actually giving you the permission to do something. How do you understand that? If I said to you, if you feel no shame, then do as you wish. Okay, so it's very simple actually. It's basically saying that if the action you're about to do is not a shameful action, then do it, right? Yes, that's right. So somebody's just answered. Exactly. So if you're about to do something and you think about it and you think, I'm not shy to do this in front of people, I'm not shy to do this in front of Allah, then do that action. Then it should be all right to do it. But if there's an action and you're about to do it and you think to yourself that this is not a bad action, but I'd never do this in front of someone, or this is something it's bothering you, that if somebody finds out, this is going to be really bad. Then what is that indicating? Anyone? If you're about to do an action and you think, I hope nobody finds out, what do you think that's indicating?
It's a sin.
Yes, it's indicating that if you're shy to do this in front of someone, or you're shy of somebody finding out that you've been doing this, then that means that, perhaps this is not a good thing for you to be doing, right? And it's almost like shyness is setting your standard. Okay, so shyness is setting you a standard of whether it is okay to do this or not okay to do it, right? And so when you feel that I can do this, whether, like for example, ghiba, right? You're talking about somebody behind their back, and you don't really think that you'd hold back, even if that person was there, you'd still say the same thing, then it's okay. But if you think, oh, if such and such was here, I wouldn't say this, then maybe it's better to just, hold back on this, because maybe this is not a good thing that you're about to do. So there's one problem in this interpretation or following this kind of ideology or understanding. Anybody try and think about what that could be? What is the problem with this? If you let this be a deciding factor, whether you can do it in front of people or not, and you let that be the deciding factor of, whether this is a good thing to do or not. Yes, very good. So one of the problems would be that you fear people, but even if you were to think that, if I did this and Allah's watching me, and you think, I'm not shy to do this in front of Allah, so you'd still do it. There's still a problem with this concept. Yes, everybody does have a different moral compass, but it's connected to our previous point. So basically, sometimes it becomes, yes, very good. That's the point that I'm trying to make, that sometimes you might lose that sense of shame, right? So like we said, when you do something over and over and over again and you lose your sense of shame, now when you use shame as your gauge stick to decide whether you should do something or not, it might not work, because your shame has gone, level of shame has gone down to such a despicable level that shameful acts don't bother you anymore. So when you think that, okay, I'm going to take my top off on the street, and you think, yeah, I don't have a problem with that, I'm just going to do that, and even if there's people over there, I don't mind, I can do it, even if Allah is watching me. So you see, you've been sinning so much that now you've come to a point where even something that is wrong, it doesn't seem wrong to you anymore. So that's the only problem with, using that as a gate stick for your actions. So when you reach a point where you stop feeling shame in front of people, and your heart becomes so hardened, then your shyness can't really be used as the determination for permissibility or not permissibility for doing something. But while you feel that you still have a solid moral compass and you are well grounded, then it's okay, inshallah, to think about shyness before you do something or you restrain from something. Ultimately, shyness is from Islam, it's from Iman, and it prevents you from doing bad deeds, and it encourages you to do more good deeds and to improve the quality of your good deeds. And so this is basically the three main interpretations. So can somebody just in a few words tell me what is point number 1, interpretation number 1, and then number 2 and number 3, just to sort of...
First is a threat, the second is a factual statement, the third is permissibility.
Very good. So the first interpretation is that it is a threat, and when I say it's a threat, that means that it's basically saying that if you do whatever you feel like doing and you are not using any boundaries, then be prepared for the consequences, that you might be punished by Allah. The second is that it's a factual statement. So it's just saying that people who are not shy or people who lack shame, they do whatever they want to do, right? Like when you hear about nudist colonies or things like that, you just think that these people really don't have any qualms or any reservations or any scruples, right? So it's basically just saying that people who are not shy, they just do whatever they want to do. And then the third interpretation is that it's indicating a form of permissibility, where it's saying that if you're not shy, or if the thought of doing this action does not make you feel ashamed or embarrassed, then do it. Like, let's say I want to go outside and I have a cleaner who is cleaning my courtyard, and I say, I want to go outside and give him 10 riyals. And I think to myself, that is that going to be awkward or embarrassing? Would I do this in front of people? No, I don't have a problem with doing that, so I'll go and do it. Okay, so it's basically just like that kind of permissibility, that if you are about to do something and you think that that's okay, if I did that, it's not going to, make me feel uncomfortable or awkward or anything, then it's all right to do it. So these are the three interpretations. Which one is correct? Allahu Alam. Imam Nawawi, he preferred the last interpretation, that it is just a statement of permissibility. A lot of the other scholars, they went with the first interpretation, that it's a threat. Allah knows best, which is ideally, what the Prophet ﷺ, exactly what he meant. But you have all the three interpretations in front of you. And at the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ said, Da' ma yuribuk ila ma la yuribuk. Leave that act which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. So that's a very clear, you could say, instructions for us in deciding whether we want to do something or we don't want to do something. So regardless of what anybody says or what you read in the books or you get this fatwa or that fatwa, if something is wavering in your heart, just leave it. Follow your heart. And if something settles well in your heart, everybody else is saying something else, then, inshallah, hopefully, if you have a wholesome heart, then your heart is telling you the right thing to do, and then you should do it. And it's the heart really that is the, what I would say is like the king of your body. It's controlling, and it's the one that is giving the instructions, for what you should be doing for your actions. And so, when you avoid doubtful matters, you automatically avoid shameful matters as well. And Allah knows best. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who, have this really beautiful virtue and characteristic of shyness, of shame. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitate it for us and accept it from us and help us to avoid sins and to leave out sins and to try and do more good actions and to improve the quality of our good actions. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept that from us. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah, next time we will talk about the concept of haya, the meaning of haya, that haya is also one of the attributes of Allah. So some more interesting points about haya, and then we'll finish the hadith, inshallah. Just an announcement that I wanted to make. Next week there will be no dars because I am going to be away for a bit. But inshallah, the following week, inshallah, there will be a dars. So I will just put it on the group anyway. The date when there will be no dars, and then when we will resume the dars, inshallah. So the next one that we will do, I would like to just finish this hadith, and then following that we will continue with Badr, with the Battle of Badr, inshallah. So the next dars that we have, which is not next week but the following week, we'll finish this hadith, inshallah, and then we carry on with Badr. Any questions? If anybody has any. Barakallahu feekum and Jazakallahu Khair for attending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from all of you. Make this a source of expiation for us all. So if you don't have any questions and if everything was clear, inshallah, you are welcome to leave. And barakallahu feekum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will try and meet again soon. I'm just checking the chat box if there's... So I will end the meeting, inshallah, and I look forward to seeing you all soon as well, inshallah. Jazakallahu Khair again for attending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala benefit us all from what we have learned, inshallah, and forgive us for our shortcomings. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.